You think embarrassment is something you feel, a thought, a moment of self-consciousness, a mental glitch you can hide. Fine, but why does your body react before you think? Why does your face heat up before you decide you're embarrassed? Why does your neck start burning before you even know what you did wrong? Why do your cheeks turn red when the whole point is that you want to disappear? Most people don't ask. They say things like, I got embarrassed, or I'm shy. They repeat words, but that's not an answer. That's just naming the thing you don't understand. Because blushing isn't a feeling, it's a physical event. And when you really ask why your body does this, you find something that changes how you see your own emotions. Not as something happening in your mind, but as something happening to your body first. Let me show you. Start with something simple. You're in a room, you say a sentence. Nothing dramatic, just a sentence. And then you notice it, a tiny pause, a look, a shift in the room that you can't fully describe, but you can feel it. And your body moves, not slowly, not politely, not after you've processed the situation. It hits you like a wave, heat in your cheeks, a pressure in your face, a sudden awareness of your own skin. It's not pain, but it's sharp. You can feel your ears warming, your throat tightening, your chest doing something, and the strangest part, you didn't choose any of it. You didn't press a button. You didn't tell your blood vessels to open. You didn't command your face to broadcast your internal state. It just happens. And now you're carrying it in public because once your face starts turning red, you don't just feel exposed. You feel exposed that you feel exposed. It stacks. Embarrassment makes you want to hide, and your body answers by making you more visible. But wait, if embarrassment is about disappearing, why does your nervous system do the one thing that makes you impossible to ignore? That contradiction is the point. And the answer isn't psychological, it's mechanical, because blushing is not emotion showing on your face, it's blood, it's circulation changing state, it's vessels widening, it's warm blood rising toward the surface of your skin. So the real question isn't, why do I feel this? It's, what just happened inside my body, and how did it start? Who gave the order? That's the wrong question. There is no who, there's circuitry. Your nervous system is not waiting for your permission. Your body does not sit there calmly waiting for your conscious mind to approve each reaction. That's not how you're built. The system that runs embarrassment is fast, automatic, and physical. It doesn't begin with your story, it begins with detection. Your brain is constantly scanning for patterns that mean something. Not meaning like philosophy, meaning like, does this change my position right now? For a social animal, exposure isn't abstract, it's a threat to position. And your nervous system treats it like one. So when the room shifts, when attention lands on you, your brain tags it immediately. Not in minutes, in fractions of a second. Before you can build a narrative, your brain can detect a socially relevant stimulus in a blink, on the order of a few hundred milliseconds. By the time you're thinking, oh no, your body is already moving, and it moves through a system you don't control directly, the autonomic nervous system. Autonomic means exactly what it sounds like, automatic. It runs the background processes that keep you alive. Heart rhythm, vessel tone, sweating, digestion, breathing depth. You can influence some of it, a little, but you can't command it. You can't decide, okay, now widen my blood vessels, now release sweat, now raise my skin temperature. It doesn't listen to that kind of instruction. Embarrassment runs on that system. That's why it feels physical, because it is. So what does the autonomic nervous system do when it detects exposure? It activates, and one of the fastest measurable signs of that activation happens on your skin. Sweat gland activity shifts, blood vessels change tension, heart rhythm changes. This doesn't take minutes. In lab measurements of autonomic arousal, changes in skin response often begin within about 1 to 3 seconds after a stimulus. 1 to 3 seconds. meaning your physiology starts moving before your conscious mind finishes explaining what's happening. And the blush is one of the outputs, not because your mind decided to punish you, because circuitry launched a body program. Now, here's the piece most people never picture. They imagine embarrassment like this. You have a thought, you feel embarrassed, then your body reacts. But that's not the architecture. The architecture is layered. A stimulus hits your senses. Your brain tags it as social exposure, and the body program begins downstream of that tag. Not downstream of your words, downstream of detection. Think about the order of the wiring. Your conscious mind is a narrator. It builds a story with a beginning and an end. It tries to make events feel linear, but your nervous system is not built for narration, it's built for speed. So the detection system takes shortcuts. It doesn't wait for a fully detailed interpretation like, people are judging me, therefore I'm embarrassed, therefore I will blush. It does something simpler, exposure detected. Output launched, no debate, no permission. And it can run in parallel. While your mind is still assembling the sentence, your body is already executing the response. Because the autonomic system doesn't operate in a single line. It runs multiple loops at once, one loop monitoring the room, one loop adjusting heart rhythm, one loop changing vessel tone, one loop preparing your voice and breath. Consciousness is a summary. It arrives after those loops have already shifted the state. You don't experience the computation, you experience the output. That output goes through brain regions that are specialized for running the body, not thinking, not explaining, controlling. The autonomic system uses hardware in your brainstem and deep circuits that talk directly to your heart and blood vessels. It's more like a control room than a debating club. And it runs before you can form a sentence in your head. This is why the blush feels like betrayal, because you experience it as me, but it didn't originate in your conscious me, it originated in the control layer. Now, here's the key timing detail. Conscious thought is relatively slow. It requires building a model, choosing words, evaluating alternatives. But the autonomic output doesn't wait for that. It's closer to a reflex. The signal takes a path designed for speed, detection, autonomic command, blood vessel change, visible output, and only then you become aware of what's already happening. So when you say, I felt embarrassed and then I blushed, what's often true is the reverse. Your face warmed, your blood rose, then awareness arrived and labeled it, and this is the direction of cause. Your body isn't responding to your feelings are responding to your body. That's the order. Body first, narrative second. And once you accept that order, embarrassment stops being mysterious. It becomes predictable, because what you call a feeling is often your brain reporting on a body state that already started. That's timing. Now, here's where it gets strange, because this system usually does something predictable. When the body mobilizes for threat, blood vessels in the skin often constrict, blood stays deeper, surface color fades, skin cools. That's why fear can make you pale. The surface is not where your body wants blood during crisis. But embarrassment doesn't make you pale. Embarrassment makes you red, it makes the skin of your face do the opposite. But wait, if this is the same arousal machinery, why does the face behave differently? Why would a system that normally narrows skin vessels suddenly open them in the most visible place on your body? That's where blushing stops being a feeling and becomes a diagnostic clue, because blushing is vasodilation. Vaso means vessel, dilation means widen, facial blood vessels widen, blood flow increases, warmth rises, redness appears. That heat you feel is not metaphor, it's temperature. Your cheeks warm because more warm blood is moving near the surface, and your skin reddens because blood is red. That's it. So why the face? Because the face is built to display internal state. That's what it's for. The blush isn't leaking emotion. It's a vascular program being deployed. Now, the next question is obvious. If embarrassment is arousal, why doesn't it just tighten everything like fear? Why doesn't your whole body go pale and rigid? Why this weird special case where the face lights up? Here's the mechanical reason. The face is one of the easiest places on your body to change appearance quickly, not because it's emotional, because of its physical setup. Your facial skin is thin, it's packed with superficial blood vessels. Blood runs close to the surface. That means even a small change in vessel diameter can change color fast. A tiny widening increases surface blood volume, and surface blood volume equals visible redness. You don't need a huge change, you need a fast change, and the face is optimized for fast changes. This isn't just about blushing. Look at what happens when someone exercises for 30 seconds, or gets angry, or steps into heat. The face changes first, because the face is a heat exchanger. It's one of the main places your body dumps heat. That's why facial blood flow is flexible. It's constantly adjusting. So when embarrassment triggers autonomic activation, the face is already a ready-made display surface. It's low resistance. It's easy to modulate quickly. And that's the first half of the answer. The face is mechanically easy to change. But there's another half, and it's even more important. The face isn't just skin. It's a signaling interface. Your face is where the nervous system puts information. Eyes widen, pupils shift, micro-expressions flicker, breathing changes the mouth shape. The face is the most information-dense part of your body. It's where attention goes. So if the nervous system needs to output something that other humans will detect, the face is the obvious target. Not because the nervous system wants to be kind, because the face is where detection happens. The face is the billboard. Now add the final piece. Embarrassment is triggered by exposure. Exposure means other minds are watching you. So your nervous system launches a program that includes visible output. And the easiest visible output is the face. That's why embarrassment doesn't just change your internal state, it changes your surface. It turns the surface into evidence. And you can see how fast it can happen. Facial blood flow can shift within seconds. Skin temperature changes are measurable. Color can change fast enough that you experience it as immediate, not because it's in your head, because it's in your vessels. And this is why the blush feels so absolute. You can argue internally, you can try to reframe, you can try to stay calm, but you can't argue with blood volume. The blush isn't an opinion, it's a vascular state. Now, here's a detail that makes blushing even stranger. Not all redness is the same. Your face can turn red for completely different reasons. Using the same plumbing. If you stand near a heater, you can flush. If you sprint for 30 seconds, you can flush. If you walk outside into cold air and then back into warmth, you can flush. That kind of redness is thermoregulation. It's your body adjusting heat exchange. More blood near the surface means more heat can leave the body. It's cooling hardware. But embarrassment redness isn't that, because embarrassment doesn't require heat. It can happen in a cold room. It can happen when you're physically still. It can happen when your body doesn't need cooling at all. So mechanically, there are at least two modes that can create the same visible outcome. Mode 1, temperature control. Mode 2, social exposure. Same result, different cause. And that matters because it tells you the blush is not random leakage, it's a specific trigger feeding into the same vascular machinery. The body has a set of valves, diameter changes, blood volume shifts. That's the infrastructure. The only question is, what signal is turning the valves? When the trigger is heat, the logic is simple. Surface blood increases to dump energy, but when the trigger is social exposure, the logic is different. It's not about temperature, it's about visibility. The system is taking a private internal state and turning it into a surface event. Because in the social world, the surface is where consequences happen. That's why embarrassment targets the face instead of your stomach. You can have a gut response too. You can feel a drop. But the gut isn't a display surface. The face is, and now the betrayal makes more sense. The face has always been a regulator for temperature. So the nervous system already has direct access to it. It already has a way to increase surface blood quickly. Embarrassment hijacks that pathway. It uses heat control plumbing to produce a social output. And that's why it feels so immediate and unstoppable. It's not building a new reaction from scratch, it's repurposing an existing channel. Now here's the part that hurts when you realize it. Your body doesn't have a separate privacy system. It has circulation, it has vessel tone, it has one set of hardware. And it uses that hardware for survival problems. Some survival problems are physical, some survival problems are social. So the same biological machinery gets used for both. Heat threat, exposure threat, two different problems, one shared circuit. And that's why the blush can feel disproportionate, because the body isn't trying to be subtle. Subtlety isn't the goal. The goal is to change your state quickly. And once it's on the surface, it becomes information other people can read. Not because they're special, because the face is readable by design. That's what faces are for. So when you blush, your body isn't expressing a philosophy, it's changing a visible variable. Blood volume near skin, temperature near skin, color near skin, a physical state. And that physical state becomes the feeling. The blush isn't for you, it's for the room. It's a visible state change you don't fully control. It's involuntary. That's why it carries weight, because you can't perform it on command. And that's why it feels like betrayal, because you wanted concealment and your body produced display. Now move forward, because embarrassment doesn't stop at the cheeks. The blush is only one part of the program. The rest of your body can shift too. Your throat tightens, breathing changes, your voice can destabilize, your hands can cool. This is the pattern: warm face, cold hands. That split matters because it means embarrassment is not one global stress mode. It's targeted, it's allocation. And that's one of the cleanest proofs that this is not poetry, it's physiology. Under many stress conditions, blood flow to the extremities can decrease, fingers cool because vessels narrow. But the face can do the opposite. Face vessels widen, finger vessels narrow, face up, hands down, warm cheeks, cold fingers. That mismatch is measurable. It means the system isn't just turning on stress, it's choosing where blood becomes visible and where it doesn't. Now here's the next thing that breaks people. The blush doesn't always feel timed to your thoughts. It's not, I understand what happened, I decide, I'm embarrassed, I blush. It's often the reverse. You blush. And then you realize you're blushing, the heat appears, then awareness detects it, then your mind labels it, and once you label it, it can intensify. Because attention changes the system. When you become aware of your own visibility, the stimulus gets stronger. Once you notice the heat, attention becomes fuel, the system reacts to the attention too. Now here's the brick wall. People assume they should be able to stop a blush the way they can stop a gesture, because you can control your face muscles, you can force a smile, you can hold a neutral expression, you can tighten your jaw, you can keep your posture stable. So the natural question is, why can't you control the redness underneath? But wait, if you can control your face muscles, why can't you control the vessels underneath? Here's the mechanical reason. Face muscles are under voluntary control. They're driven by the motor system. You can send a signal from your cortex to a muscle and move it on purpose. Blood vessels are not controlled that way. Vessel diameter is regulated by autonomic commands, smooth muscle, chemical signals, local control loops, different system, different wiring. Trying to stop a blush with a thought is like trying to stop your pupils from reacting to light by deciding not to. You can stare into brightness and tell yourself, do not constrict. your pupils still constrict because the command doesn't route through your willpower, it routes through reflex circuitry. And timing makes it worse. By the time your conscious mind notices embarrassment, the program is already running. Detection happens in fractions of a second. Autonomic output begins within 1 to 3 seconds. Vessels start shifting, so your thought arrives late. You're not intercepting the program before it launches, you're trying to interrupt a process already in motion. And once it's in motion, it has momentum, because vessel changes don't flip like a light switch. They ramp. Blood volume rises, heat increases, the surface becomes more saturated, then your awareness says, stop. But there's no direct stop command. There's no conscious dial that says reduce facial perfusion by 30%. That's not a control you have. Your conscious mind is an observer with limited bandwidth. It can steer slow decisions. It can choose words. It can choose where to look, but it cannot micromanage the autonomic system in real time. Which is why embarrassment feels like you're watching yourself from inside, because you are. And this is why trying not to blush backfires so consistently, because the attempt itself increases monitoring, it increases attention, it keeps checking the face. Is it happening? Is it happening now? Can they see it? That checking is not neutral. It's part of the stimulus. It's like tapping the bruise to see if it still hurts. The tapping becomes the signal, so the blush loop becomes exposure, autonomic output. Awareness detects it, monitoring increases, autonomic output intensifies. You can't override it, because your override arrives after the launch, and the only tool you have is attention, which fuels the system. That's the trap, and it's mechanical. Now quantify what that looks like. Embarrassment blushing often doesn't peak instantly, it builds. The visible blush tends to reach its strongest point several seconds after the trigger, often around 15 to 20 seconds later. That matters because it means once it starts, it has momentum. Even if your mind tries to recover, your face can still be rising toward visibility. You feel this, you say the thing, you register the shift, you try to stabilize, and your face keeps going anyway. It climbs after the moment, which tells you the blush isn't obeying your plan. It's running its own timeline. Now here's the second proof, and it's the one that flips the direction of causality. If blushing is a real vascular event, measurable blood flow and temperature, then your subjective sense of blushing should track the physiology. You should know when it's happening, but it doesn't always match. People can feel like they're blushing intensely when measured changes are modest. And sometimes measured changes happen without strong self-reported embarrassment, meaning the story and the body are not the same system. They can drift, which implies something uncomfortable. Embarrassment is not just the feeling causing the blush. Sometimes the blush comes first. Sometimes the body launches output, and the conscious mind arrives later to interpret it, not as a choice, as a label. And that label is what you experience as embarrassment. Now add one more layer of proof, because you might think, okay, maybe I'm imagining it, maybe the blush is subjective. No, the blush is measurable from the outside. You can measure facial blood flow changes with tools that don't care what you report. Thermal cameras can detect increases in facial temperature. Optical sensors can detect blood volume shifts in the skin. Even simple imaging can track changes in redness over time, meaning the blush exists as a physical signal whether or not you describe it accurately. And that leads to a very specific result. Sometimes other people can detect blushing even when you try to mask it, not because they read your mind, because the signal is literally on your surface. More warm blood near the skin changes reflectance, changes heat emission, changes color. That's why embarrassment is so hard to hide. You can hide words, you can hide intent. You can't easily hide a vascular state change that is happening in the skin. And it also explains another weird mismatch. People often overestimate how visible their blush is, because inside your body, you feel heat and pressure, which is intense, but intensity of sensation is not the same as intensity of redness. So the internal alarm can be high even when the external signal is modest. And sometimes the external signal can be obvious before the internal narrative catches up. That's the split again. Physiology and story are not perfectly linked, which means embarrassment isn't a feeling that causes blushing, it's a chain. Detection, output, visibility, awareness, label. And once you've seen that chain, you stop treating embarrassment like a mystery. It becomes a sequence. Now bring the latter together. You start with a social trigger, a moment of exposure. Within fractions of a second, detection happens. Within 1 to 3 seconds, autonomic output begins shifting, facial vessels widen, blood rises, heat appears. The blush builds over the next several seconds, often peaking around 15 to 20 seconds later. And somewhere inside that rising wave, awareness shows up and says, this is embarrassment. But the body moved first. Now pause, because once you see that order, you can't unsee it. You think you feel first, but the sequence is physiology first, awareness second, narrative last. Embarrassment isn't a mental event that spills into the body. It's a body program that becomes visible, and your mind experiences that visibility as a feeling. Now let's do the 2 hard proofs cleanly. Proof 1. Blushing is measurable as increased facial blood flow and rising skin temperature, and it can happen while blood flow to the fingers decreases. That split warm face, cool hands is redistribution. A coordinated vascular strategy, not vibes, not metaphor. Proof 2, your belief about how much you're blushing doesn't always match measured blood flow. Your narrative can overshoot the physiology or lag behind it, meaning your subjective embarrassment is not the master switch. Sometimes your nervous system is running ahead of your story, and now the structural reframe becomes unavoidable. Here it is. Emotion isn't the cause, it's the name your brain gives the body's output after the body has already acted. Embarrassment doesn't begin as a thought, it begins as circulation. It begins as vessels changing state, blood rising, skin warming, visibility increasing. Then awareness shows up late and tries to explain the heat, so next time embarrassment hits, notice the order. The face warms, the throat tightens, the body reallocates, the blush rises. And then the mind says, I'm embarrassed. But the body was already moving. You don't start embarrassment, your body does. You notice it. Awareness comes last, not comfort, truth.